Mike Pence made a thesis statement throughout the entire evening. Mike Pence reassured the American people. He showed a compassionate side of the Trump administration. He was factual. My goodness, did Mike Pence do his homework. Mike Pence was informed. Mike Pence was detailed. And Mike Pence was unafraid to hold Senator Harris accountable for her deceit, for her lies, for her misleading statements. I thought, let's go backwards. The best moment of the entire debate, and I'm not going to totally take credit for it, but we did advocate for this for over a week, and we did send in a memo to some people that we know and to the vice president, was when Mike Pence played moderator on the topic of packing the courts. When Mike Pence turned to Senator Harris and he said, tell us whether or not you will pack the courts. Not once, not twice, but 3 times Vice President Mike Pence did this. And 3 times Senator Kamala Harris cackled, laughed, put her hands like this. By the way, the body movements of Senator Harris, I felt like I was watching MSNBC and the Pilates Network merge into one. I mean, the amount of movement, and Mike Pence was stoic and firm. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris was all over the place, which is a sign of someone who is losing a debate. And Senator Harris refused to answer the very simple question, will you pack the courts? Who will you put on the Supreme Court? And Mike Pence won the trust of the American people, of the transparent and tough administration of President Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and the deceitful, duplicitous campaign of Joe Biden and Senator Harris. Senator Harris also, her only argument she had the entire evening was repeating the fact that 210,000 Americans died of the Chinese coronavirus. One of the best moments of the entire evening is when Vice President Pence responded to Senator Harris and said, you understand that under Joe Biden's mishandling of H1N1, a far less lethal virus, far less contagious virus, over 60 million people were infected and 2 million people would have died. What successful viral record do you have? And for those of you that are just joining right now, I just want to reinforce, Mike Pence won this debate, and this might have been the stimulus shot in the arm for the Trump campaign that might bring them the victory, because there were a lot of moderate swing voters watching tonight. There were a lot of people in the middle that were trying to see the differences philosophically of who actually might become president. Joe Biden, if he wins, will be the oldest American president in American history. And if Donald Trump wins re-election, he will be the oldest American president in American history. Senator Harris demonstrated she is a gun-grabbing California Marxist radical who believes in packing the Supreme Court, cackling at her opponents, not answering questions, and basically creating her own narrative to confirm her own power grab. Here's one of the main takeaways from tonight. Mike Pence was on offense steadily, compassionately, directly. He was in complete control of the debate. Mike Pence continued to talk until the moderator basically shut him down. Mike Pence did something that was so brilliant. He didn't actually answer the question immediately. He answered what was the best unanswered question of the whole debate. Then he went back to the question that was asked. This was demonstrated when Senator Harris committed acts of slander against President Donald Trump and his commitment to U.S. members of our military. And Mike Pence says, I'll get to that, but first I have to answer that. Mike Pence was in complete and total control. And Senator Harris, if I were to just look at this objectively, the only point that Senator Harris might have is politically exploiting the actual pain and suffering of the American people that happened from the Chinese coronavirus. There's a couple other things. There's many things that have bothered me throughout the evening of what Senator Harris said, but I just want to reinforce what Mike Pence did tonight is very difficult. Mike Pence held the line during a turbulent week after a president that is hospitalized, a deluge and an arbitrage of media attacks against the president and the vice president and the entire first family. And Mike Pence won public opinion, and people are going to vote for President Trump tonight thanks to what Vice President Pence did. Complete and total victory and a almost death blow to the Biden campaign. Packing the courts, no answer whatsoever. Then all of a sudden, we saw, and we're going to go backwards, Mike Pence then attacked Senator Harris for mocking Catholics for being part of the Knights of Columbus. Fact check, true. When you know Senator Harris is lying, she cackles. Ha, 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 ha. She kind of looks up to the sky. Mike Pence, how does he react? Stoically. Looks into the distance and says, I can't wait for my time. And he takes that. Only once did Mike Pence interrupt Senator Harris, and I thought that was actually a low point. I thought that he was really allowing the rules of engagement to play itself out. And then I think at that point forward, Mike Pence built to an absolute triumphant victory. The issue of China, my goodness, has it been ever so transparent who exactly is on the side of the Chinese Communist Party? Did you know tonight, anyone that was able to watch this debate in China, when Mike Pence was giving comments about China, it was completely and totally restricted. It said, failed signal, we will be right back. On Chinese television, 1 billion people were not able to hear about the Chinese Communist Party's global ambitions. By the way, Senator Harris, why is it that your party cozies up to the Chinese Communist Party that has 1 million Muslims in concentration camps, is building islands in the South China Sea, the Belt and Road Initiative, stealing intellectual property, dumping steel and manufacturing products into our country, further disenfranchising the manufacturing base? Another very interesting thing happened tonight. Vice President Pence laid a sequence and series of questions and traps for Senator Harris, and she walked right into them. One of the core religious beliefs of the American left is the environment. The environmental movement is nothing more, for some people, than a pseudo-religious movement for the Democrat Party. They believe in this with the same theological, the same dogmatic belief that anyone would believe in anything religious. And so when asked directly, Vice President Pence answered it perfectly. He did not fall into the trap that Susan tried to lay for him. He said, yeah, the climate's changing. We're going to trust the science. Perfect answer. However, Senator Harris, she said to her entire Democrat base, I'm going to betray you. She said repeatedly, proudly, loudly, and categorically, we are not going to ban fracking. In a second, we are going to show you the liar that she is. We are going to show a video right here that shows that Joe Biden promised to end fossil fuels and that Senator Harris promised to end fracking. I was so proud of Vice President Pence when the issue of trade came up. One of the least talked about victories of the Trump administration has been the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, renegotiating NAFTA, that even Sherrod Brown, a Democrat pro-labor senator from Ohio, voted for. You know who voted against it? Senator Harris. Mike Pence put Senator Harris herself on trial throughout the evening, even more than Joe Biden. Well done, Mike Pence. That is exactly what you needed to do. And for at one point said he wants to get rid of fossil fuels. Senator Harris, waving in her Pilates way, says, let me be perfectly clear. We're not going to ban fracking. We're not going to ban fossil fuels. Oh, yeah? What did Joe Biden say in the Democrat Party, in the Democrat primary? Play tape.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
We cannot.
We're going to get it out. We're going to phase it out. Senator Harris lied to you this evening. We have them on tape. Mike Pence, one of the major suggestions I made to him privately and publicly was focus on how Senator Harris was a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Incredibly, stunningly, Susan from the USA Today, I want to make sure I got her name correct. What's her last name? Please put it in the document. I want to make sure I get it right. Susan Page, that's what I thought. I didn't want to say it incorrectly. Susan Page from USA Today, she asked one of the most direct questions I have ever seen in recent memory of a Democrat. She said, Senator Harris, you are the co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, and you read the website of your campaign, and it says you sponsor the Green New Deal. Why is it that you say you support oil and natural gas exploration, fracking, and energy independence? The answer is they don't. And this is what really was very interesting for me tonight. Senator Harris, she's not dumb. She's corrupt. She's duplicitous. She's immoral. She's power hungry, but she's not stupid. She's very smart. She's conniving, which actually is much more dangerous. I'd much rather be running up against a dumb person than an evil person, because she will do whatever it takes to get near power. So Senator Harris was briefed for the last couple days by her team when they said, we need to win Pennsylvania. I have said this for many weeks. Pennsylvania will be a critical state for the road to the White House. Almost everything that Senator Harris said tonight was around winning the state of Pennsylvania. Almost everything. Her focus was around that. And so Senator Harris says, I love frack. We support fracking. Joe Biden's not going to get rid of it. Notice she never said she won't get rid of it. Very interesting. She won't said our administration won't. What did she say in the campaign? In fact, we have some tape. Let's play tape of what she said just a couple months ago. Play tape.
New Deal. We have to have goals. And we have to, it's a resolution that requires us to have goals and think about what we can achieve and put metrics on it. Some of them we'll achieve, some of them we won't. But if we don't aspire, this is gonna be a bad ending. And I hate to sound this way. I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but it is very real and it is within our power. And, you know, in California and in so many states, we've seen at a state level, it makes a difference.
So Senator Harris, at the beginning of the video, we had a little bit of an audio lapse, said, we are going to pass the Green New Deal. I am a champion of the Green New Deal. And so Vice President Pence, winning total put Senator Harris on trial. Vice President Pence broke the code of the Democrats, which is, we're not going to just make this election about Donald Trump. We're going to make this election about your central planning, socialistic, Marxist ideas. And piece by piece, Mike Pence, despite being lied about, despite being slandered, he went on offense. And as I mentioned previously, Mike Pence did exactly what he needed to do on one of the most critical issues. The first 3 articles of the U.S. Constitution talk about the legislative, executive, and judicial branch of our government. Article 3 is pertaining to the judicial branch. Why is this important? Well, because Senator Harris and Joe Biden will not answer a direct question. Mike Pence put on his hat to be a moderator for a brief second and did exactly what we were asking and suggesting him to do in brilliant fashion, and Senator Harris squirmed, dodged, lied, and was embarrassed and was just waiting for the minutes to go one by one. Play tape.
But we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more.
Cut it out. Cut it out. Enough of that nonsense. So, Senator Harris, history lesson. She doesn't appreciate history. She doesn't want history. She doesn't answer the question. You guys saw the same debate that I saw. But Mike Pence, win. Brilliant. That was an act of linguistic jujitsu, what Mike Pence did there. He went from a question on abortion, reaffirming that he cares about 1 million babies that are being terminated in the womb every single year. Boom. Win with the base. Articulating that the Republican Party is the party of life. Pivots to how the Biden-Harris campaign wants to pack the courts, and then transitions, all within a span of 45 seconds, by the way, in 15-second perfectly spaced intervals. Will you pack the courts? Dead silence. Perfect. And then Senator Harris says, how about a history lesson? Okay, first of all, you don't care about history. You only use certain specific parts of cherry-picked history to fit your own radical agenda. But let me be very clear. In 2 debates now, Joe Biden and Senator Harris have refused to say whether or not they will pack the United States Supreme Court and who they will put on the U.S. Supreme Court. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who they revere as basically a deified figure of the American left, said that we should keep the Supreme Court at 9. She said, quote, it's a good number. When pressed on the environment again, Mike Pence talked about conservation. He talked about actually, thanks to fracking and thanks to natural gas, CO2 emissions are going down. I cannot tell you how many Democrat base voters were probably lost tonight because of Senator Harris betraying the environmental agenda of the radical left. For all of you watching out there that might think you're losing your country, let me give you a little bit of hope tonight. It was more clear than ever that Senator Harris was given marching orders to run to the middle. This country is not as liberal as you might think. This country might have liberal leanings on certain social issues recently, but we are a country that still believes in energy independence and free enterprise. In fact, Senator Harris refused to embrace the Democrat socialist ideas of Bernie Sanders, of ending fossil fuels, of the Green New Deal. In fact, she was running to the middle so quick, you would have thought she was trying to run against Mitt Romney in a primary in Utah. I mean, the things she was talking about were old Republican school ways of framing things, saying like, we just want to have a better way of having the environment. Why? Because this race is shrinking, and the Biden campaign knows it. This race has went from a race that was a national election, it never was, to basically 3 states, Arizona, Florida, and Pennsylvania. What did Senator Harris do to help her case in Arizona tonight? A state with more registered Republicans than Democrats, a state that has elected Republicans to governor, Republican governors to almost since 1990, except one little bit of a hiccup, except Janet Napolitano. A very center-right state, in fact, a conservative state. What did she do to help her case tonight? Yeah, she talked about wildfires, but while she also did that, she admitted that they will raise $4 trillion in new taxes. She also continued to lean in on this idea that Joe Biden will be a better overseer of the economy. Public polling shows that President Donald Trump is much better trusted with the economy than Vice President Joe Biden. How about Florida? Senator Harris made a tragic error tonight. There is no way that the carefully crafted poll testers of the Biden campaign gave her these marching orders. Again, she is a bad person. She's not a dumb person. She's a power-hungry, self-interested politician willing to do whatever it takes to gain power. Be careful of people like that. You all know people in your life like that. Run the other direction. Mike Pence is a stoic. Mike Pence is someone who cares about duty. He cares about sacrifice. He cares about serving other people. He's been a lifelong public servant. And so what did Senator Harris do that was so wrong with Florida? Florida, outside of New York, has one of the most heavily populated Jewish populations in the country. Vice President Pence, and the one thing I think he missed, I'll tell you in a second, as soon as foreign policy came up, he was unafraid to talk about how the embassy was been moved to Jerusalem. Senator Harris tried to attack Vice President Pence on the issue of getting rid of the Iran deal. That is a popular position in Florida and even New York. Do you know that Chuck Schumer even came out against the JCPOA, the Iran deal? Because even in New York City, it is not popular to give billions of dollars to the Iranian government, the #1 state funder of terror. So Senator Harris right there kind of overloaded her circuitry. All of a sudden, she was talking like a California liberal, not like someone who's trying to win Miami-Dade County or Broward County or Palm Beach County that have significant elderly Jewish voting populations that are very pro-Israel. So where Mike Pence, I wish he would have just completed one point, and Susan Page, I think, was a little bit too intense on the time at one point, which he said, hey, Senator Harris, what problem do you have with the fact that Israel and the United Arab Emirates now have a peace deal and Bahrain has a peace deal? The one piece of feedback I have for President Trump and his campaign and Vice President Pence, guys, there's been 2 debates. Why has there been no mention of the peace deals? That's such a big win. Lean into that. It is irrefutable. People actually love peace. I know this might sound like a strange proposition, but peace is actually popular. Senator Harris lied outright about foreign policy claims, about foreign entanglements. President Donald Trump is the only president in my lifetime not to start a new foreign war to send middle-class young people to go fight without a defined and declared objective. President Donald Trump is ending the endless wars. Joe Biden is the one that started those foreign entanglements in Libya and overseas. And Mike Pence, piece by piece, methodically picked apart the Biden foreign policy, eliminating ISIS, not wanting to take out Qasem Soleimani, not wanting to take out al-Baghdadi, not wanting to take out Osama bin Laden. We have tape right here on the economic issue, and we'll get to that in a second. But I want to zero in on another part of this that kind of started the debate. You could tell that Senator Harris was told by her campaign to make the virus the 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 20, 50 issue of the entire night. Mike Pence was prepared. Mike Pence was ready to play offense. on the virus issue. And this is how dishonest the Joe Biden campaign is. They are quick to complain and very slow to ever offer solutions. If I were to say the number one zinger of the entire night was when Mike Pence told Senator Kamala Harris, "You're a plagiarist," which is extra spicy because Joe Biden had to drop out in 1988 or 1998 when he ran for 1988 when he ran for president because Joe Biden is a serial plagiarist. Play tape.
The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. The reality is...
Woo! Sorry, Senator Harris. I'd like to call the DA because I think I just witnessed a murder. Oh, my goodness. That was brutal. Senator Harris got called out for the fact that the Joe Biden campaign has offered zero policy differences of how they would have handled. I didn't know tonight. And that's not to say I know everything, but I'm pretty well informed on kind of the zeitgeist and the landscape of kind of talking points and one-liners and back at yous. When Mike Pence called out Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on H1N1 and said that if you would have played out all the data for the infectiousness and the lethality of the Chinese coronavirus to H1N1, 2 million Americans would have died. Mike Pence did his homework, and Mike Pence put Senator Harris on trial. Play tape.
You know, the reality is, when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong.
That one-liner right there, that Joe Biden's chief of staff even admitted that they were unprepared. If we can find a tape of that, I'll pledge right now at Turning Point Action, we are going to run paid advertising of that one-liner. Because Vice President Pence, you need to get that message out, that Joe Biden did mishandle the virus, and they are nakedly, politically posturing over this entire issue. There's one part of the entire debate tonight that probably bothered me more than anything else. And it shows you exactly where the Democrat Party is. And guess what? Almost no one is going to mention it. It was kind of a side comment. It kind of will get brushed under the carpet, but it's philosophical in nature, and it's important that every single one of you listen to my words very carefully. And those of you watching on Facebook, there's a podcast link in the description. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show right now. And if you might want to sign a copy of the MAGA Doctrine. What is this? And we'll get tape of this. Senator Harris was filibustering and demagoguing about packing the courts, about how unqualified nominees are. And then at the end of it, she says something that is so telling, and it should be alarming to all of you. It should scare you. She said not one of the nominees were black. I'm glad that Vice President Pence held his tongue. I'm glad that Vice President Pence didn't engage, because then you get into kind of alienating people on race. I will engage. Why does it matter, Senator Kamala Harris, what skin color a judge is? Ask any Bible-believing Christian, and they will say they will take, theoretically, 9 lesbian Mexicans on the Supreme Court if all of them believe in the U.S. Constitution. Who cares what the color of the skin of a judge is? That's the whole point of a judge. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the singular black person on the court is named Clarence Thomas, who your running mate, Joe Biden, slandered when he tried to become on the U.S. Supreme Court in what he called a high-tech lynching. So tell me, Senator Harris, what is a black judge? What does that mean? Can you build out exactly what a black judge would be different than a Mexican judge or a Latino judge or a white judge or a Christian judge or a Jewish judge? How about a judge of what you believe? And this shows you, and this should scare every single one of you. This should scare you because Senator Harris represents a completely new paradigm of the Democrat Party. She cares about skin color, not about ideas. Senator Harris thinks that your skin color matters. I don't. Vice President Pence doesn't. Donald Trump doesn't. We say, you know what? I actually care about, do you love the Constitution? Do you care about the Constitution? Are you a textualist or an originalist or not? Play tape of Vice President, the person running for the Vice President, Senator Harris, I should say, who makes such an chilling comments, not one of them black, as if skin color matters. She's a racist. Play it.
Cool.
Yeah, let's talk about PAC in the court then. Let's talk about the PAC. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I have witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black?
Not one is black. Who cares? What is the significance right now, Senator Harris, of a nominee being black? What does that mean? What does that matter? Can you build out specifically and totally why a nominee's skin color matters? If there is one philosophical distinction between the Democrats and Republicans, between President Trump and Joe Biden, is this. They care about skin color. We don't. That's it. If you vote for one thing in November, it's Joe Biden cares about the color of your skin. Donald Trump doesn't. What you're really looking at is a post-racial colorblind agenda and a racist pseudo-KKK agenda that Joe Biden is embracing. And I say that intentionally. We have not seen this kind of race baiting since Grand Wizards were allowed on cable television when Mike Wallace was interviewing them 40 years ago. Why does the color of the skin matter, Senator Harris? And of course, Susan Page lets her get away with it. That's fine. I think she did better than average. When you look at a judge, do you want someone that looks like you? Or do you want someone who's going to rule fairly, rule soberly, be steeped in wisdom? Is Senator Harris trying to say something to us? That a skin color matters? Does she think melanin matters? See, if the activist media wasn't so racist, which they are, we would actually get blatant answers on this. And I hope all of you watching this understand the significance of where this party is going. Because you have true, almost neoliberal ideas that are being now embraced by conservatives and Republicans, and you have these collectivist, melanin-mattering ideas on the Democrat Party. Let's look at the course of the 20th century. Has it typically been a good idea or a bad idea to judge people based on the color of their skin? Was America's best days when we judged people based on how they acted or what they looked like? Were we most proud of our country's history when we said that blacks couldn't go to school with whites? Was that a good thing? See, Senator Harris, the reason she justifies this is she thinks that the only way that black people can get ahead is to trying to make other people of other races not have the same preference of black people. We call that racism. It's also called affirmative action. And if the activist media had any interest in talking about the philosophical differences between these two campaigns, which they won't, but I'm here to tell you this, do you want an America that you're going to grow up in? And if you are white out there and you have a white child, do you want your child to be judged by how they look, something they can't control, or how they act? Because you have on one side Senator Harris and Joe Biden that actually care about how they look. And you have Mike Pence and Donald Trump that care about how they act. Not one of them black. So what? I care about their judicial interpretation. And by the way, Senator Harris, turn to your septuagenarian 47-year in Washington, D.C., Loch Ness creature swamp monster running mate and ask what he did the last time a black qualified constitutional nominee went up to the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas. He tried to high-tech lynch him is what happened. I think we have more tape here. Is that the same tape we have here? Mike Pence also put Senator Harris on record for locking up black people more so than anyone else in the urban cities of California. So while we're on the topic of trying to say we need to end racism in this country, maybe we should end Kamala Harris. Play tape.
When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, you increased the disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record speaks for itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We've fought for educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our minorities.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for 4 more
Thank you.
Senator Harris had no response to that all whatsoever. Susan Page was very quick to say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mike Pence deserves credit for pushing through, though. Mike Pence deserves credit for pushing and completing the point and, quote-unquote, landing the plane. For those of you just tuning in,